Hi Varshi.
How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you going?
I am so well. It is so exciting and such a pleasure to start this with a person like you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, trusting me enough to just let me, have this space to ask you anything that I can. I mean, you didn't put any limitations.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for being so authentic.
Of course, I've got no secrets, so I'm an open book. I'll say whatever you ask.
You're quite a different personality to the average director. What makes you so different?
That's such a good question. Well, I actually used to be very rigid. I think the first 2 years of MUSO, I was the most rigid guy ever. And if MUSO members weren't doing well, I'd get very upset, very angry. And I kind of thought about it, and I would ask myself, what is a company? The word company is friends, if you think about it. I like your company.
Absolutely.
And the more I thought about it, I thought, wait a minute, a company is actually just a group of people who believe in the same mission, who come together and work towards a goal. And then when I realized that, my approach changed a lot. So the focus was, yes, we must hit these high results, but why? And we got these company meeting docs which keep reviving that mission. Hey, we're here to prove that music education can be fun and we can make kids really good in the process, rather than, hey, you have to scream at these kids and that's the only way to make them really good, which is the old generation. So I believe in the modern leadership style, which is very focused on, hey, the leader is looking after the team. I don't like the 1900s leadership style where the big boss is someone who sits there and expects people to pour the champagne for him and he orders people around. I really don't like that style.
Yeah. But in order to have such an approach, in order to have this humanitarian aspect to what you do and to be so aligned to your mission, there needs to be a sense of security, right? Because usually people who struggle with knowing their worth or knowing their value, that's where they need to take it out of other people's cup and keep feeding themselves, right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing right to keep yourself so secure and so grounded where your cup is full enough, where you are able to focus on those around you and create this atmosphere?
Whoa, okay. Maybe you're right. So the truth is, the first 2 years of MUSO wasn't very big. It was okay. It was like a smallish music school. People in the community knew about us, but it wasn't a household name. So the first 2 years of MUSO, I wanted to feel like a boss. I wanted people to respect me. So it was almost like that demand, hey, you better respect me. That's why I'll tell you off at the slightest issue. But as MUSO got bigger and bigger, it became more focused on the team, the mission. And it was weird, like the first 2 years of MUSO, I wanted to show my status a bit more, even outside of MUSO. You as a guy, you'd care more about dressing well to show this image, or have like a really good posture. I mean, I still have a pretty good posture, but you care more about these strangers. They have to know who I am.
Yeah.
I have to tell people who I am, that kind of thing. But now I don't really care anymore. It's gone to that stage where I care a lot about what's my mission.
Absolutely.
So if people talk to me, what do you do? I'm like, yeah, I'm a musician. I like to.
I'm a witness to that. Any one of my friends meet you, you introduce yourself as an employee of MUSO. I work at MUSO. And I'm like, okay, he's the director, but all right, that's something to learn from. I mean, you're so humble about what you do. Take nothing with us when we leave this world, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So the only thing you leave behind is what you leave in other people's hearts and in their journeys and in yourself, what you've created. That's the true gold. And the fact that you've been able to find that alignment at such a young age and your materialistic achievements are validating that inward journey, I thought you'd be the perfect person to start redefining success.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that touched my heart. That's exactly what everything you said. You're like tick, 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 tick. Yeah, literally, my currency to happiness is my relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I really like the challenges that come with it. I'm sure you'll ask me later on, but running MUSO, running non-for-profits, obviously you will meet people who don't see eye to eye with you.
Yeah.
And some people aren't on the same wavelength. They think really differently. They complain about you, about very little things. But you have to be okay with it. You have to know how to deal with certain people, and that's part of life, right? Your relationships with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Rather than having a very high ego and you want to get in a fist fight, you know, this is what the law says, so I'm right. Then they go, yeah, but my emotions, right? I could easily do that and you know, basically shove people to the floor with my law and logical mind. But that's not what being human is. You know, I have to empathize and hear your perspective, and we find the thing we agree on and work towards that. It's something that I'm getting more and more passionate about these days. So the books I read is focused on this. I don't know about you though. What do you think?
Well, I absolutely agree. And even the research shows that the more altruistic you are, so the more you're a giver and you think about going beyond your own needs into other people's needs, that's actually the only way we can really find happiness. So if you buy things for yourself, that's temporary joy in that moment, but true happiness can only be found by altruistic approaches. But I want to go back to, you spoke about your non-for-profit. So not only do you have your own company, but you've also managed to start up your own non-for-profit as well.
Right.
So what is your mission there and what is that about?
Right. I actually did not start it.
Oh,
so
sorry.
the president of this, I mean, I competed
Yes.
in this competition as a kid. It's called Fremantle Eisteddfod.
Amazing.
It's the biggest music competition in Perth for classical music. The first thing I realized was, wait a minute, the president did everything.
Yeah.
She did all the enrollments, she did the website, she organized the judges, the scheduling, the volunteers, the financial, submitted the tax returns to the ATO. And
That's
I went,
a passionate soul right there.
right, and I went, why are you doing everything? And I asked a lot. I said, do people get paid in this organization? And they said, oh, no one gets paid. We do it out of our passion. And I went, I told them, I said, it's beautiful what you guys do, right? Doing things for passion, but it's not going to work. I explained to them, I mean, maybe I'm too business-minded, but I told them all these non-for-profits out there, when people do things for passion, they don't last very long.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. So I pitched this vision to them. I said, obviously when we start, we are not going to get paid, right? Because there's not enough revenue, right? But don't worry, I'm pretty good at marketing and building stuff.
Absolutely, you are.
So I'll build it to a pinnacle one day where everyone will get paid, right? So it took 2 years. And then one thing that people don't know about is that I'm the president. I love that. I actually think that's what a non-for-profit should be.
Yeah.
The person who's in charge is hopefully someone, successful, who doesn't even need the money. Because when someone needs the money, it's less likely they're doing it from the heart, right? That's my perspective. Anyways.
I agree. And I think, money is necessary, but the fact that you don't have greed for it, and you look at the practicality of money, okay, I have enough. I know how to build something that's long-lasting, something real, something that's sustainable, and you're not looking at filling your own cup. Because if you have greed, no matter how much money you're getting, you're never going to be satisfied.
True.
So the fact that you found that sense of gratitude, groundedness, I have enough, how can I provide for others?
Right.
Again, it goes back to that security in a materialistic way this time, in being a man. And I'm going to spin off a bit and talk about something that I noticed about you. Always, when you treat people, you have this real provider, this real healthy masculine energy about you. Where does that come from?
Right, I did not know that. Thank you. I'm getting too many compliments today. Where does it come from? Well, why do you say that? So what do I say that makes you think that way? Or what do I do?
You're very sensitive and you're very in tune to people around you. And it goes beyond, sometimes salespeople can be very good at psychology and they can be good at studying people because they're trying to get their needs met. And it's essentially a clever manipulation, right? Connecting to people. Yours goes above and beyond, where even in your friendship circles, even if I may, as a provisional psychologist, I think it's also maybe a trauma response as well, where we are hypervigilant when we've been through a lot of crap in our childhood, right? So you become hypersensitive to people's needs, but you've made that your superpower. It doesn't damage you, it makes you aware, but you've made it a medium for service, essentially. So you're aware of if a girl's showing up in a certain outfit, if she needs to be complimented, you're uplifting her.
Right.
Or your friends, you're constantly providing. You're not a taker. You're just really aware of other people around you and how you can make a difference in the smallest way beyond a business mind.
Right.
So, yeah. So where do you think that influence, that positive influence comes from? I mean, you mentioned to me earlier that you read books on how to improve yourself. Is this one of the things that you focus on?
Yeah, exactly. When I was a teenager, I went through, I think every teenager goes through it, me and you.
Yeah.
We go through a self-identity crisis.
Absolutely.
All of us, right?
Yeah.
And how everyone battles it is very different. It was a weird one where growing up in a Hong Kong family, I don't know if I'm stereotyping here, but when I talk to other Hong Kongers, they seem to have gone through quite similar phases where you get blamed a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't even think the beatings that we take is nothing, right? And it's really funny when I say, yeah, my parents hit me. People were like, oh yeah, you know, my parents did that too, like a hit, you know, when you do something naughty. And I went, oh, that's not the beating I took.
Yeah.
So, you know, the beatings I took was, you know, I would drop a spoon on the floor and my dad just got upset at me dropping a spoon. So he would hit me. And if he's frustrated about something else, he would keep hitting me because he's like, oh, you see, you caused me to burn this egg, so let me keep hitting you. And you could last as much as like 10, 20 minutes, I don't know. Yeah. Right? He would just keep coming back, hit me again. You get upset, come back. And I think my dad was, you know, he's lovely now because Isabel's managed to talk to him and, you know, took years to slowly bring him down.
And Isabel's your sister.
She's my hero.
Co-founder
of MUSO. Well. She's my hero because she paved the way for me to have a better relationship with my parents, right? But basically, I think my dad enjoyed seeing us get hurt. So, you know, I don't know if that's called a sadist. Apparently, that's what it means when you actually take pleasure in seeing people in pain. Because my dad would do a thing where when he sees I'm in pain, he would come back still yelling and he would aim at the same spot he hit. Because he knew I got a purple bruise already from that spot. So he hit me at the exact same spot, but he'll go harder every time because he wanted me to feel more and more pain. So once you've handled that, then you get blamed for everything that goes wrong. Then it'll be weird. Like my mom would say things like, oh, you know, I work so hard, you know, which is true. All parents work hard for their kids. Yeah. And then it's like, because of you guys, you know, I'm suffering because of you guys. And then I started reading more and more books about, you know, how successful people should be behaving, right? So then there was one book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And basically, Robert Kiyosaki, this Japanese guy, was comparing his dad, who at the time was a pretty, you know, high earner professor, and he would compare it to his best friend Mike's dad, who was an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. And he was saying the stuff these two were saying was so different. Yeah. So with his own dad, who was making good money, but you know, he had that worker's mentality, he would say to dad, "Oh, you know, Dad, why can't we go on that holiday like, you know, Mike's family?" And then Mike's dad is said, "Oh, it's because of you kids." Basically what my mom said. Because of you kids. I have to work hard because of you kids. Blame. Yeah. Blame mentality. Then he would go over to Mike's family. Then when he would say stuff like, "Oh, you know, why aren't you guys going on holiday?" And Mike's dad would say, "True. How can we go on holiday?" He asked the question, how can we go on holiday? And he will explore, maybe I can build the company a bit bigger, do this, do that. He will think of all these ideas.
Yeah, so a growth mindset, abundance mindset compared to just projection and
a victimizing mindset. So he was comparing these two mindsets. So that was already like a big whoa for me. I was like, whoa, okay, so I have to change my mindset. Stop blaming things. Yeah, wow. And you know, at the time, I thought I was being bullied, right? I would go to school every day. It was always the same guys who'd say horrible things to me. And I felt like killing myself. Yeah. Came home to a dad who beat the crap out of me. Felt like killing myself. I don't know how many times I talked to Isabel about this. Like, is it just me, or did you think about killing yourself? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, like over a period of how long? She's like maybe 3 years. Yeah. And I went, oh, is that normal for like a teenage person to want to kill themselves for 2 or 3 years? And she's like, I don't think so. Right? So then basically when I read these books, right, I was going, okay, maybe I'm not being bullied because I'm victimizing myself, right? And I'll do this thing where I'll go to school and I'll look at how popular people react. Yeah. And I went, wait a minute, this guy is kind of dumb. He fails all his tests. Why is he popular? He's not good at anything. He's actually, you know, not good at anything, right? Yeah. Maybe besides sports. And I realized a certain level of authenticity, of not caring and really believing in who they are that came about them. Yeah. And if someone was to say the same thing that, you know, those bullies said to me, they would just laugh and be like, are you okay, buddy? Like, what's wrong with you? And they would, you know, kind of laugh back, you know, lightly tease them back and then say something nice about them. that will make even the bullies like them. And I went, that's it. Like, I was just victimizing myself because I was so used to parents saying mean things to me and taking it personally, right? So then I went to school and approached it completely differently. You know, if someone said something mean, like, oh, your hair looks funny, I would laugh and be like, I'll go, oh, really? You think so? Oh, what's weird about it? Oh, really? Oh, maybe I should fix it. All right. And rather than take it personally, I'd go along with it. And all those bullies became my friends. I ended up becoming good friends with all of them, right? So that's when I started learning about life. Like, you actually, if you're in this victimizing mindset, it will stick with you forever. Winners don't take things personally. They learn, they grow, and they want to improve.
If I
So,
can
yeah.
reflect on what you said, we were talking about your journey to becoming a healthy masculine. And what I hear is this real sense of taking responsibility for your life, accountability, integrity, and then observing the environment around you, studying what you want to be, creating different role models for yourself, and really setting different standards. And you didn't just, you know, it's quite normal for children to mirror what their leaders have taught them, their parents, their first teachers.
Right.
That becomes their norm. That becomes how they cope. That becomes how they see the world. But you completely zoomed out, looked at the world around you, didn't take your own wounds and your own pain so seriously.
Right.
And you actually were able to go deeper within yourself and find a superpower and made kindness and just being authentic your weapon to changing. You took the power back.
I never thought of it that way, but
That's why I'm here.
Sure. Yeah, okay. I mean,
and now
yeah,
you've
maybe.
created this empire, if I can say, where you've got this cascading effect of, I have reinvented myself and I'm going to be the cycle breaker for everyone else around me who may be experiencing the same thing without directly saying it to these little kids. I mean, obviously, anyone who looks at any of your videos on social media, you have such a different approach to how, not even just in your technique, but in your heart and in your energy when you're teaching children. You have such a different, strong sense of empowerment. You believe in them, which creates that it ignites that sense of belief in them as well, which is what kids need. So even if they're not getting it from home, you're starting that up in people. And you're creating a different set of adults and a different generation, which is so powerful because not everyone has the ability to stop the cycle, look within, and reinvent themselves. So you've created that. You've been one of the leaders that all of these kids are going to have. You are that now. And I'm so proud of you as a friend, honestly.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Thanks so much.
Like,
Thank
it's
you.
incredible.
Thank you so much. Yeah, wow. So many compliments. And how about yourself? So what's your goal and how are you going to help change the world in your way?
My goal right now is, obviously, I'm a national finalist for Miss World Australia. I'm a provisional psychologist. I'm to Port Hedland to work for 3 months with Indigenous populations and do counselling in drug and alcohol. So my whole mission, I'm really passionate about sexual assault and trauma. And similar to you, I've had to reinvent myself and I've had to go inwards and figure out what kind of person I want to be and stop putting the blame on others. I'm going to shift it to...
She thought it was interviewing me, but I switched it back.
I am really spiritual, right, as you know. So I believe things happen for a reason, and I believe you don't get given anything you can't handle. So in order for light to come, I see darkness as things that like crack you open, and then light goes into you deeper and deeper. And then you can reflect that or do whatever you want with it onto other people. And you've clearly chosen to become that. Become that light. Yeah.
And life is a matter of perspective anyways.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do because obviously when you're a leader of a company or not-for-profit, your job is literally to read people. Now, I don't know how good I am at reading, but what I always do is, you know, if I see someone happy, like you before, I won't say what it was, but I would think, oh, if I was that person, why would I be so happy? Right? And that usually helps me understand people a lot better. So if I'm talking to an upset parent, an upset teacher, I always think from their perspective, and I always project what they're thinking. So I see, because to show sincerity and to show that someone feels heard, you have to reignite what they're saying. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of leaders do. They will just listen and go, yep, I got what you said. All right, so what we can do, solution straight away. And I went, wait. So that's incorrect in my opinion. You should actually empathize by reigniting what they're saying. I understand you're upset because your child enrolled in this competition and she got disqualified due to going over time. It's tragic as a mom. I would love to invite you to the Government House Ballroom for this concert. I will pay for the tickets for you, so then your daughter will feel that passion come back, and then go to the logical stuff. In future competitions, I'd like you to follow proper procedures, which is to look at the time limit first before enrolling. You got to do these things if you want to be a great person at talking to people. So
particularly if you're dealing with people who are broken and have their own things going on,
right?
That simple act of kindness can really establish. Yeah, it can, and it can establish. That rapport can establish a smoother process for your work with them as well later on. It empowers them to trust you and to maybe change the way that they initially approach a person. It can be really healing for people.
So probably that's the answer. People, maybe yourself and me, the reason why we care about community and giving a lot is because we're quite broken ourselves.
Yeah.
Now I look back, maybe I am extremely broken. People sometimes would talk to me and they find out these, I think what I told you is just 1/10 of, what I've been through.
Absolutely.
And
same.
then, same, right? And then people go, why are you smiling so much? I'm sure you get that a lot. And why are you so happy? And I went, well,
You laugh or you cry.
Broken people who come out of what they're broken with tend to be the happiest because they've seen the opposite world. So the way they see things is a lot different. So actually being broken is not a bad thing at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think, when you're broken, what can happen is you forget your light, you forget your power. You give the power to someone else.
Right.
But when you heal and when you start, taking that power back as you have, it changes things.
Right.
It brings a different perspective. It changes the way your brain's thinking, and you become that giver of love and light that you've never had, which is really cool.
As we have. It's a we thing. It's not just me.
I want to ask you a really random question.
Yeah.
And throw you into the deep end a bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. I love deep ends.
Okay. Do you ever get anxiety?
It's so funny. I tell people I don't believe in it, but it's more like I can control it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remembered.
So what does yours look like?
I remember the first 2 years of MUSO, there were so many things I don't know about, right? Like how to financially budget a company, how to create databases, marketing, how to create a proper bookkeeping team, how to create like a hierarchy within a team. There were so many things I didn't know, how to run curriculums or events. So there was so much time I was spending on one event that now I take like barely any time on. And I just remembered sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. Because I'm running a non-for-profit. I'm starting MUSO, and then I'm also running a non-for-profit. I'm doing all three at once. So I actually gave up love life. So I remember I was dating a girl I liked at the time. I actually, we stopped because I had to literally work like 17, 18 hours a day. I don't know how many hours I worked. It was like death. I didn't even have time to eat. Like mum would say, please, Lawrence, like eat something. She'll put food. And I'm like, okay, I'll be on my laptop. Eating while like trying to get more stuff done. Because it was just torture basically. And then I remember I would almost faint like 3 times a day. So I would get up and then I would go, what happened? And it would happen 3 times a day. So I realized I was overworked, but I couldn't really do anything about it because part of being a leader is you have to be in pain. Because if you don't suffer, you don't know what the pain is, how can you allocate that role to someone else? It's a very common issue where I'll talk to a friend, even one of my close friends. She said, I went to a new company and was given a crap load of work. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It's not humanely possible to do that.
Yeah.
The first thing I asked was, has your boss ever done it before? She said, no. And like, you see, that's the problem. A lot of bosses out there, they themselves haven't even done it.
Yeah. So you literally walk in their shoes before you allocate.
Everything I do, so some people even ask me, like even my bookkeeper, she would say, why are you asking me so many questions? I was like, oh, can you explain what this means? Like, I want to know everything, like this whole Fair Work book, I want to know everything. And she's like, why are you asking me this? And then at some point she's went, oh, you actually want to know all these things, do you? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Because if I don't know it, right, how do I know what it's like to be you and what your job is? It's really important to know what you're giving to other people.
Absolutely.
So I basically tortured myself the first 2 years, knew everything inside out before I started creating roles for people. And that's why I think that's probably one big reason why MUSO has been able to go to where it is today.
It's founded on empathy.
I didn't think of it that way. I thought a leader should be doing that. One of my favorite leaders is actually Napoleon. And Napoleon was that kind of leader. So he actually worked, fought in the army, was low level, worked his way up, knew every position in the army before he led France to what he called, promoting a republic, which is basically the modern day democracy. And then all the monarchies hated him for that. So it was like, 6, 7 countries all declaring war at him at the same time. And he was able to fight them off 3 times before he got defeated ultimately. But that's insane, this kind of guy. So I really liked his mentality on, what a leader should be. You could argue towards the end he got too stubborn. That's why he lost. Didn't listen to his followers, his generals. But
you
at the beginning,
take in the lessons that help you.
Yeah, I like to learn people's mistakes. Yeah. Like every great leader who messed up, I like to see why they messed up and learn. Yeah.
My favorite person to study is actually Hitler. Because people don't ever say that in a Miss World competition or something like that.
Right.
But he is so... same thing. He just believed in himself like crazy. The German people completely rejected him. No one wanted him as a leader.
Right.
He manipulated his way through, and just one person believing in himself, he did so much damage. He caused so much pain.
Right.
So it inspires me to think about how a positive person can do that. I mean, like you said, right, you don't believe in anxiety. Anxiety is what? It's an imbalance in the body. It can look very different for different people. Perhaps you're not so much of a feeler, so you didn't dwell in it as deeply as others would. But there have to be days where you may have nerves, or, perhaps when you were about to get hit by your dad, if your body knows that it's going to get hit, you're becoming rigid, you're becoming tense. Have you not experienced anything like that? Yeah,
definitely. My dad would do this, and I'll go like this. Or, going to events, I would feel so much pressure. The first 2 years of music, it's always the first 2 years where it's painful as a leader. And I'd feel so worried, so many thoughts, can't sleep, have nightmares, like what's gonna go wrong? I think by my 3rd year, I realized this is not, you have to think about longevity, right?
Yeah.
I'm not in this for the short term. I'm not someone who wants to build MUSO, I don't know, maybe to $1 billion company and just sell it. No, that's not my mission. My mission is to keep going maybe till I'm 90.
And beyond.
Right. And beyond, and give it to the next generation. I want MUSO to be here when I'm gone, and the next leaders of MUSO are still continuing, paying musicians well, helping kids learn in a very healthy way. So when I started thinking about longevity, I realized that I have to control my mind. So now when I deal with pressure, I always take deep breaths, and I always tell myself, this is nothing. This is nothing. Everything is nothing. Everything's easy.
I say that too. I say everything is illusion. Nothing's real.
Everything's easy. I tell myself, Earth is a rock. That's the biggest joke ever. Ha ha, that's so funny. I tell myself things, and then I'm able to perform way better after.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people, and especially parents, they're like, oh, how are you going? How are you going? And I go, that's a real, I hate to say it, but that's a loser's mentality. I had that loser mentality the first 2 years. This high pressure.
And loser not from a judgmental perspective, but loser as in you are causing yourself to
have this unnecessary pain. Yeah. But now when I'm like, oh, extra work, you got this, champ. You got this, you got this. And I'm like, you got this. And when I finish, sure, I'm working overtime. But when I finish, that satisfaction is I pat myself. I knew I could do it. I knew I could achieve it. And when you change your mindset, you become obsessed with achievement. Absolutely. Achievement becomes a drug. It's when you help people and you achieve things, you go, yeah. Whereas the other mindset, right? When I talk to some parents, it's like, oh, there's a new assessment or a new project coming up. oh, more work.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not the way to live life. Like, if you have that mentality,
Completely
maybe
agree.
change your job. Like, something's wrong, you know?
Yes. It's
Yeah.
often not that you're doing too much, it's often that you're not doing enough to ignite your spark. It's
Right.
usually that you're not doing enough to refuel yourself. So if you are in alignment with what you feel is your purpose, you're much less likely to become burnt out in a manner that, you know,
Exactly, yeah.
kicks
But
you
I
out
think
again.
leaders have a lot to do with it. I'll just point that out. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you can have people who with like that loser mindset,
Yeah.
but they join an environment where the leaders are very empowering, very positive. Like, it's like kids, right?
Yeah.
And they're so inspired by this guy, the way he lives his life. Like, you know, while I'm here complaining about, you know, having to help my colleague do something because she asked for my help, the leader is jumping in whenever someone needs help. He doesn't even care about himself. He cares more about the community. That's someone I aspire to be. People at the bottom will follow, you know. I mean, back to that Hitler thing, right? He was just so inspiring with the way he talked.
Yeah.
And everything he said was so agreeable, you know, to the Germans. Like, oh, we suffered after World War One. We were blamed for the war. In my opinion, like, the Germans were the leaders of their coalition. So technically they should be the ones taking the most blame. But they didn't see it that way, right? They were like, oh, this guy, our ally got shot, right? The prince got shot. So we were dragged into this war. That's their opinion, which, you know, understandable if your mum is starving and having to pay these reparations to England, France, and stuff. It makes sense. Like, so when I, you know, you mentioned that guy, like, I look at them and go, you know what, these people suffered so much. Now I look at them, like, when people suffer, it's easier to follow a
Yes.
leader like that, who's like, I'm going to bring you out of this pain.
But
Right.
how do you make that sustainable? Because sometimes it can just be indoctrination, it can just be brainwashing, where we are programmed as human beings to mirror what we see. So there's a certain pattern of behavior. If you don't really know who you are, as a child or as an adult, you may follow your leader. But how do you truly empower people to make that a sustainable choice for themselves?
Well, it's up to people. People follow things they agree with, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on your childhood.
So you appeal to their needs.
Exactly.
Cool.
You know, if you're building a brand, you should appeal to people who agree with your mission.
Yeah.
Not everyone agrees that classical music education should be fun. No, not everyone agrees that we should break the stereotype where these ruthless teachers are just screaming at kids. Like, we get hate comments all the time,
Yeah, that's awesome.
right? And that's how you know you're doing something special, because if everyone agreed with you,
Absolutely.
it's not very special. It's too agreeable, right?
So how do you deal with criticism when it comes to you personally? How do you empower your staff, your team,
Right.
to see that differently?
Well, we focus a lot on why we're here and what the mission is, right?
Yeah.
Like, high quality education, inspire the kids, make them have fun, but still be good. So you have that right balance of being strict and really fun. And you lead as a role model, live a healthy lifestyle. So when you focus on the mission, people will agree with you. So when you get criticism, and that criticism is not very agreeable, right? People always appeal to a high moral stance. Like, well, should I agree with this criticism saying, well, you cheapening classical music, let's stick to the old ways of screaming at kids? Or do you appeal to the group who's like, no, let's continue high quality education, but let's be role models and make these kids want to practice and love it?
Absolutely.
Which one is more easier to follow? Obviously, our mission is easier to follow. So, you know, if the day comes where our team doesn't want to follow the leaders and what our mission is, maybe our mission is wrong, right? And then we as leaders have to reevaluate. So we sometimes, you know, I look at criticism sometimes, and I will always think, like, is it valid, right? Sometimes your critics are actually your best fans,
Absolutely.
because they actually tell you stuff you need to work on, right?
Yeah.
Some of them might say, like, oh, you know, the kids are playing very well, but they go, oh, the posture's horrible. And I look at the kids and go, that's kind of true. Like, they're bending their backs a bit too much. And I tell the team, hey, yes, we are meant to bend our back sometimes, but if it's excessive, it actually is bad for, you know, a child's back.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes your critics are worth listening to.
And again, I hear this sense of real growth mindset, this real humble, open to feedback, open to learning, observing, listening, taking things in and applying it to your own environment and making it your superpower and taking back the power. It's gone a full circle around back to that. Would you agree?
Yeah, being a student.
Yeah.
I'm a student of life, and I
same.
want everyone around me to feel
Absolutely.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Lawrence, if you had to give a piece of advice to 5-year-old you, what would it be? How was 5-year-old you compared to this Lawrence? Do you think he'd be proud of the way you've redefined success?
Five-year-old me didn't even know what success was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think childhood me would be very proud, right? It's a very hard upbringing,
Yes.
with parents like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd be very proud. I probably wouldn't even give myself any advice because I think I've done pretty well in terms of life, in terms of values and stuff, and that's through self-learning.
Yeah.
So maybe advice I would give is go with it,
Yeah.
trial and error, don't be afraid of losing, right? Which is unrealistic because you have parents who are afraid of losing and,
Yeah.
see. So that's why the advice thing is weird when your parents won't even promote that mindset.
So what I'm hearing is you're just telling yourself, just face it as it comes and trust the process. It will unfold.
Exactly, yeah. Probably have a healthy mindset, growth mindset, how to empower people. Yeah, I think I really believe in karma, actually.
Yes, same.
I'm a true believer in karma. When someone, attacks me, I don't take it personally anymore.
Yeah.
I've learned to really let my ego go. I don't have a high ego at all. You could literally say the worst things you can about me, and I might get upset for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, I'm just a human being on a rock. That's pretty funny. There's no need to have such a high ego.
And again, it's that sense of false security, showing the ego, or healthy masculinity, having true security in one's mind.
Right. Yeah. I never even heard of healthy masculinity before I met you. It must be a topic you're very passionate about. You said it multiple times.
I am actually, I see you as a healthy masculine. So I'm bringing it to that because I want men out there and women to see that I think there's a certain level of masculinity that's coming to women because they've been through so much, or men just feeling a bit lost in how to be a provider and this and that, and just all the external pressures that have come. And I just want to bring it back to just be a good human being and be in tune. And it could work out the way that it's worked out for Lawrence.
Right. Yeah, it's great to get this message out. Yeah. But yes, I would tell myself, go off the flow, learn, be positive, and it's going to work out for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Like, it's a bit like the stock market, really. You might be thinking this is the worst time ever, I want to kill myself, which is what I went through. Don't be like that.
I went through as well.
Yeah, we So, it's not going to last forever. Yeah. If you can change your mindset, change that victimizing mindset,
nothing's impossible.
Yeah, you can achieve anything. Absolutely. Right? I've, gone through many very, very unhappy phases, but stayed positive and life's pretty good. Oh, and one other thing is lucky people tend to get luckier results.
And they see more opportunity in situations.
Right. So if you're someone who thinks they're lucky, I guarantee you, luck will find you, okay? If you're someone who feels unlucky, so I've met many of them, they're the slumping shoulders people. Like every time something goes on well, slightly, they couldn't get the promotion they wanted, couldn't get the job they wanted. See, life is just not fair. Those people will always be unlucky until they change their mindset.
And that's actually backed by research. It's backed by evidence that people who believe they're lucky see more opportunity because they look out for more opportunity, and therefore they have a higher probability of success.
Yeah.
So,
pretty much.
Awesome. Any last words?
Thank you, Varshi, for doing this interview with me. I had a lot of fun.
I had so much fun. I don't even know how an hour went by. Thank you. Keep being you. I'm so proud of you as a friend.
You too,
and
as well.
I can't wait to see everything you achieve and what you bring into the world.
We'll see. 10 years' time. All right. Thank you so much.